wanted to do something slightly different in this video, which is a kind of all-encompassing review of all things Hobbit related, including the books, the films, and especially the latest film that just came out, because I went to see that last Thursday at the midnight showing with my best friend, and I need to talk about it. Before we start, I'm just going to say that when I get to reviewing the last film, I will let you know when I'm going to start to talk about spoilers. There's going to be a spoiler section right at the end, but before that I'm only going to talk about things that have happened in the book and the film that happened before the last film. So you should be safe for spoilers. I'm going to start by reviewing the actual book itself. You know what the book is about. It's about a little hobbit from the Shire called Bilbo Baggins, who is kind of hired by this company of dwarves and Gandalf the wizard to go on a quest to reclaim the Lonely Mountain, which is the home of the dwarves that was stolen from them by the evil dragon Smaug or Smaug. My biggest regret about this book is that I didn't read it when I was little, so I have no kind of childhood nostalgia to put with it. When I read it, I kind of imagine like an old kind of granddad voice in my head, like reading the first part especially. It sounds like something that should be read aloud. I think the writing style itself lends itself to that really well. The narrator kind of has these little asides saying, but that's for the next chapter, dear reader, and things like that. So you're always kind of aware that you are being told this story, and I suppose in a way it's kind of Bilbo telling his story, isn't it? Because he writes down his story and later tells it to a lot of hobbits in the Shire. Another aspect of this book that I really, really love is the inclusion of all the drawings, because I'm pretty sure, I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure that Tolkien himself drew these pictures, and I love his art style. I mean, if there was a graphic novel out there with this art style, I would be all over it. I just love that. I just love that art. It's amazing. And I also really love the cover of this version, except for the fact that it's very easy to scratch and damage and get like greasy fingerprints all over. But my favourite part of this book is definitely the Mirkwood scenes. I absolutely love the descriptions of the forest and how dark it is and how heavy it makes everybody feel, and all of the kind of illusions that seem to go on in there. And it just gets so dark but so beautiful, and that's the moment for me when the characters all start to develop. Bilbo, starts to really fight and overcome these horrible things, and although he's still dreaming of the Shire, he's also stepping up and saving the day and being the hero, and he just doesn't even seem to realise it. He does it and then he's like, yeah, but I wish I was back at the Shire, like smash a spider in the face. I just want my bed, and I love Bilbo. So the first time I read this book, I gave it 3 out of 5 stars, but the second time I'm reading it, I think I'm going to give it 4. Now we've talked about the book, I'm going to talk about the film series as a whole, and this is going to be non-spoiler. My favourite part of the Hobbit films, and for that matter the Lord of the Rings films, has always been the costumes, the designs, all of the setting, the background. It's just amazing, and I think it's the Weta workshop that does that, and I just think that they are complete geniuses. Like the level of detail in those costumes and the character designs and all of that kind of thing, like the amount of thought that gets put into it, I think that just makes them such good films to immerse yourself in. Another part of the films that I really, really love is the music, and this was by Howard Shore. Just beautiful, it's so magical, it's really good for studying and writing essays. The individual songs for each film, like the Misty Mountains was obviously written by Tolkien, but sung by the cast in the first film, is so atmospheric. And then I See Fire by Ed Sheeran in the second one is obviously one of my favourite songs. I can't stop listening to it, haven't stopped listening to it since the last film came out, which is about a year now. Finally, in the last film, I've forgotten what the name of it is, but it's sung by Billy Boyd. As soon as I heard the first notes at the end of the last film, I was like, right, we have to leave, because if I sit here and listen to this song, I'm going to cry all over everything. And the final thing that I love about the Hobbit films is the way that they split it into 3 parts. And I think it was a really good decision to do that because it allowed for so much development, especially with the characters. All of the dwarves got their own kind of personality that I felt personally I couldn't see in the books. I also love that they were able to bring in the elves more, and that they were able to show Gandalf going off on his own little solo missions. I feel like they were able to develop it like that because I think all of the extra things going on, all of the complexity of the films were actually in the book, but they were in the subtext, so you knew that Gandalf was going off on his quest, and you knew if you've seen or read Lord of the Rings that it's going to be something to do with that. A lot of setup is going on in the background, but I think the film brings that out more. So in that way I feel like it's justified. One thing that I didn't like about the way that it was split was where it was split, especially not in the first to the second, but the second to the third film. I felt like the part with Smaug all should have been in the second film. Okay, so this section now is going to be all about the Battle of the Five Armies, but this part is going to be spoiler free. It's just going to be a general overview of my thoughts. So like I said, my favourite thing about the Hobbit films, and this one as well, is the costuming and the designs and everything like that. So I'm not going to go over that again, but it's still on point in this film in my opinion. I loved all of the armour especially, and the animals as well in the last film are really great. I love Thranduil's new elk, and I love the pig, and yeah, I like the animals. I felt like there was some really great actors in this. I loved Richard Armitage as Thorin Oakenshield. I also loved Lee Pace as Thranduil. I thought his performance was really good in this film as well, and there were a few really funny moments that I won't spoil or anything, but Thranduil is just, I love Thranduil. I also loved Dwalin's actor, Graham McTavish. I loved Dwalin's character through the whole series of films, but in this one I felt like there was a lot of emotion and things like that, and I thought the actor did a really great job of that. And also surprised Billy Connolly. Like, me and my friend heard his voice and we were like, is that Billy Connolly? And yes it was, and I loved Billy Connolly's performance as well. One thing that I really loved, but I'm having mixed feelings about, is the fact that I thought the last film was so funny and I wasn't expecting it, and I'm not sure if I was supposed to be laughing. There are also plenty of badass moments in that last film. The only downside to the last film is that I really don't like the special effects. I'm not sure if it's the special effects or the way that it was filmed, but it does make it look like a video game, and I noticed it in the second film, but I noticed it a lot more in the third film, and it really distracts me and brings me out of the film because I'm just thinking, well, it looks like, I feel like I should be holding, you know, a controller or something and making them move. This is going to be the spoiler section in which I talk specifically about things that happen in the last film. Alright, so if you're about to leave, thank you so much for watching, and I'll give you a few seconds to click off this video. Okay, so specific moments that I want to talk about in the last film. Right, I think the last film should have been called Battle of the Bad Decisions or something like that, because there were so many horrible decisions in this film where you just look at the characters and you think, really? First of all, Bard putting his trust in that creepy guy that used to be the master of Lake Town's servant or whatever. Why was he putting his trust in that man? Why was he letting his kids go off with that man? Thorin's idea to take with him his 2 heirs to the throne in his battle against Azog, the orc, and then Billy and Killy splitting up when they are looking for the other orcs. No, no, Philly and Killy should never split up. No. You see Philly on his own in the tunnels and the lights are shining on the walls and you can hear the orcs in the background. And you know that they're coming for him and you're thinking, no, it's about to happen and I can't watch anymore. It needs to end right now. And then Thorin standing on the ice while Azog floats along underneath him. Bad decision making. And then of course Gandalf leaving any of the characters in the franchise alone for 5 minutes is just the worst decision ever. Alright, those funny moments that I was talking about that I'm not sure whether they were supposed to be funny. The first one was probably Bard using his son as the aim for his arrow, but I was just thinking, Father of the Year. I also laughed at Thorin's little speakeasy door because he builds this big barricade up, right? And then he has this little gap. Another part that probably wasn't supposed to be funny was when the orcs use the giants to, I'm not sure if they're giants or what, I'm not actually sure what they are, but they're kind of like bigger versions of the orcs, and they use them to headbutt things. So to get into Lake Town, the city, one of the like giant orc things runs headfirst into the wall and then just kind of that really made me laugh as well. And then finally, one more thing that probably wasn't supposed to be funny but I found funny was probably because of the situation in the film at the time. I think something really, really sad had just happened, so me and my friend were like, oh, like trying to keep it together and trying not to cry. And then we both looked up at the screen again and the eagles dropped a bear into the middle of the battle, and I was like, wow. Parts that I think were supposed to be funny were the parts when all of the dwarves were stood at the top of the wall and Thorin's like, yeah, we'll fight you, and all of the dwarves back him up, and then all of the elves get out their bows and arrows and all of the dwarves go behind the barricade except for Thorin. That really made me laugh, that was so funny. Another part that was supposed to be funny probably was Thranduil's sass. I'm going to keep coming back to this. I love Thranduil, and specific badass moments that I liked were the scene where Galadriel and Elrond and Saruman save Gandalf from the prison that he's in. I loved that part. I thought that Galadriel getting all dark and like was just amazing. I love that part. And then another moment that is really, really cool is all of the dwarves kneel down with their spears like this, and then all of the elves start jumping over the dwarves, and it's like, yes! Teamwork! Oh, it's so beautiful. I love that part as well. And apparently I can't shut up about Thranduil, so I'll just mention that his fighting style was amazing and I loved it. Now, I don't know how anyone else feels about the ending, but I did feel like there was a kind of bittersweet feeling to it because obviously it's not the end of the entire franchise. Bilbo has lost these friends that he's made, and although he's been on this journey and it was amazing and he overcame so many things, he goes home and he's alone and oh, Bilbo. It was really sad. It's the part where he invites all of the dwarves back anytime that they want and says they can just come waltzing in without knocking or anything like that, and then it shows you a shot of all the dwarves and there are those 3 empty spaces that just, oh, like Thorin, Killy and Philly were 3 of my favourite characters in the Hobbit films, and seeing them, knowing that they were going to die by the end and seeing them die was so sad and I was not ready for it. Things that I wasn't so sure of. I really liked Tauriel and Killy's relationship in the second film But in the third film, I felt like things had moved on really fast, and like it seemed that there was a little bit of development of their relationship lost in between the two films that we didn't get to see. So I think I like lost a little bit of a connection to those two as a relationship. Another part that I thought wasn't quite developed enough on screen was the change of Thorin from the second film to the third film. I wanted a little bit of development there. I wanted it to go a little bit slower and smoother rather than like changes. So for each film, I think I would give the first one 5 out of 5 stars, the second one 5 out of 5 stars, and the third one 3.5 out of 5 stars. I feel like I need to watch it again. So those were my quite emotional based, subjective thoughts on The Hobbit as a book, the series as a whole, and Battle of the Five Armies. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. Like, comment, subscribe if you want to. Please have a discussion about this with me in the comments. I would love to hear your opinions of the film and of the book and anything that you want in regards to The Hobbit and even The Lord of the Rings if you want to. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!